humanity. Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Okay, welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. As you can see by my official New York City press card, I am a reporter, and this came in handy yesterday at Haffen Park, where Mayor Eric Adams came. I write for the Bronx Post and the Parkchester Times, both like this show. I'm part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also contribute to the Co-op City News. I have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com and Facebook page 100% and what is going on in your local community board. The views expressed on the show are that of the host, any guest, anyone commenting at the bottom of the screen that you might see, and not necessarily that of Parrot Media Corporation. A quick check of the weather report. Today, the high should be about 80, dropping down to 76 tomorrow on Saturday, 78 on Sunday, 79 on Monday, which is Labor Day. So it looks like nice weather for your Labor Day weekend with rain in the future for Wednesday or Thursday. It's been said on the TV show Law and Order that you can indict a ham sandwich. Well, in Washington, D.C., a man is accused of throwing a sandwich at federal agents and was charged with a misdemeanor after prosecutors couldn't secure a felony. So I wonder if that was a ham sandwich or a bologna sandwich. To the news. 2 weeks ago, President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in what could have been a signature and achievement for Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, but the promised follow-up meeting between Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky never materialized. Ceasefire demands were dropped, threats of action have disappeared, and Trump's team has offered no clear road ahead. Some frustrated U.S., Ukrainian, and European officials say that Witkoff's go-at-it-alone approach is part of the problem, and he has repeatedly had miscues with Russia. Witkoff talks to all these people, but no one knows what he says in any of those meetings, said a U.S. official familiar with the envoy's diplomatic style. He will say things publicly, but then he changes his mind. Witkoff's Washington office is sparsely staffed, short on people with experience in complex diplomatic negotiations. He has refused to do typical consultations with Russia and Ukrainian experts in and outside of government, according to the 5 people familiar with the internal discussions that was reported. And hearing about politicals reporting, the White House sent over statements from 6 people. One UK national security advisor, Jonathan Powell, says Witkoff has been able to open doors that no one else could, and exactly the sort of person who gets results in diplomacy by concentrating on building trust between key leaders and moving quietly to cut a deal. And another VP said Witkoff has made progress towards ending the bloodshed in Ukraine and all his critics combined. What we're trying to do is put Putin and Zelensky together and create the opportunity to have a successful meeting, Witkoff said in an interview. He's meeting with Zelensky's lieutenant, as a matter of fact, right today. German Chancellor Friedrich March said yesterday that there will obviously not be direct talks between Putin and Zelensky, even as Witkoff continues to chase after a deal. Now, without announcing in the past, the Defense Department has prevented the Ukraine from firing long-range Army tactical missiles that it has to hit Russia since the spring. The review process created by the national security policy professional Eldridge Colby gives the U.S. a veto over Ukraine conducting such strikes with the American-made weapons and effectively undoing a green light. The Pentagon has rejected Kyiv's request at least once. The U.S. sanctions against Russian trade haven't been as effective at slowing the war on Ukraine. One reason could be that the financial institutions necessary to facilitate that trade are not being found and punished. Let's go to the National Guard and Donald Trump. After LA and DC, Chicago could be next for the next unwilling American city where President Donald Trump sends in the National Guard. Weeks of planning at the Pentagon have given Trump the option to deploy the National Guard or active duty troops, though that's considered less likely, along with an expanded ICE enforcement in a broad operation against undocumented immigrants, criminals, and homeless people. City and state leaders reacted sharply to this reporting, saying that such a move by Trump would be unnecessary. Sunday, Trump threatened to do the same in Baltimore or pull the federal funding to rebuild the Key Bridge that was hit by a barge and fell down. CNN dug into the data from the first week of the federal takeover in D.C., and they found that there was a 17% drop in violent crime, according to Metropolitan Police Department numbers, and the numbers of immigration arrests have spiked tenfold. The crisis of carjackings in the D.C. area, which remain elevated above pre-pandemic numbers, despite falling significantly in recent years. Many of the young people arrested for the violent crime get released in a day or two. Now, Kathy Hochul has condemned, our governor has condemned President Donald Trump for sending troops into the streets of Washington, D.C., but she's in no rush to withdraw hundreds of National Guard soldiers posted in New York subway system on her orders. And a ramp up of immigration enforcement is coming to New York and other so-called sanctuary jurisdictions after Labor Day, President Donald Trump's border czar said Thursday. Tom Homan's comments come from as the White House is proceeding with a crackdown in Washington, D.C., and is eyeing major immigration action in Chicago, as I said. You can see a ramp up of operations in Chicago. Absolutely, Holman told reporters, you're going to see a ramp up of operations in New York and a ramp up of operations that will continue in LA and Portland, Seattle. What exactly that ramp up will look like is unclear. This is not the first time Holman has threatened the Big Apple in such a way. We're going to flood the zones. The sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they deserve, Holman said. Thursday's warning follows the president's controversial federal takeover of the policing in Washington, D.C. this month, which has included an expansion of immigration enforcement, which also comes as the White House is reportedly considering using a military base to support upcoming immigration operations in Chicago. Moving on to the Texas redistricting, Texas Republicans approved new congressional map on Saturday morning, moving forward with power grab pushed by President Donald Trump. The GOP-controlled state Senate approved the map on party line votes after hours of debate. Under the new map, Republicans in Texas are aiming to earn 30 House seats, up from their current 25. The unusual off-cycle redistricting effort in Texas has set off contentious national tit-for-tats. California lawmakers approved a ballot measure redrawing the state's map to create 5 new Democratic seats to offset Texas. But Republicans could soon have the advantage of redistricting battles as they escalate nationwide. The White House is pressuring other Republican states like Indiana and Missouri to take on their own redistricting gambits. Democratic governors in New York and Illinois have vowed to fight back, but so far have taken no concrete steps to do so. The National Redistricting Foundation, an arm of the Democratic Party's main redistricting organization, immediately challenged the new lines in federal court. The complaint lodges a bevy of challenges against the new lines, including that it is unconstitutional, racial gerrymandering, and that it violates the Voting Rights Act. The Texas legislature subordinated other redistricting criteria, including partisan advantage, to race to draw the new maps the challenges allege. The case in point comes home on it is new map is dismantling so-called coalition districts, which are districts that a no single racial group make up as a majority. But Black and Latino voters collectively do so in these districts. Democrats argue that the international targeting of these districts would be impossible to do without taking race into account. Republicans, however, say they redrew the districts explicitly for partisan purposes and did not take into account race or ethnicity. The Trump administration's Department of Justice spurred the redistricting into motion by arguing Texas' previous map was unconstitutional and because it contained several of these types of coalition districts. At the time, the DOJ cited a 2024 ruling by the Fifth Circuit, which controls Texas-based cases, that found that the Voting Rights Act does not allow for district minority groups to join together to make a claim, meaning map makers were not required to draw these coalition districts. The new map, which was drawn using the 2024 election data, creates 4 new majority Hispanic districts drawn to reflect the Hispanic voters' shift to the Republican Party. Now, speaking of Texas, former New York Yankee Mark Teixeira, and he also was a Texas Ranger that he played for, announced that he's running for Congress as a Republican to replace fellow Republican Chip Roy, as per the Texas Tribune. Now, while urging the White House to speed up bomb deliveries in the months after the country's assault on Gaza began, Congressman Richie Torres was also adding defense contractors to like Lockheed and Northrop to his financial portfolio. And as the DNC begins its summer meeting, Politico reports that another cycle of squabbling over the Democratic primary calendar may end with New Hampshire, not Iowa, returning to the front of the line. Some Democrats think the likeliest outcome is New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and a Midwestern state, perhaps Michigan, taking the 4 first slots in 2028. New Hampshire's return is especially likely because the DNC gave up its leverage when it didn't punish the state for going rogue in 2024. Governor Kathy Hochul is running for re-election, and she wants you to make sure that you know that she's tough. She swears, and she got President Donald Trump squarely in her crosshairs. While even a Republican challenger is not officially declared to run against her, Hochul released her first campaign ad on Monday ahead of her re-election next year. It struck a decidedly different tone from her first race when former President Joe Biden was in office and Democrats controlled the House. This time around, Hochul leaned heavily into her increasingly vocal opposition to the Trump administration and her growing national presence as a resistant governor. Over a year out from the 2026 elections, ahead of a high-profile and combative election for mayor of New York City, now would normally seem a little early for an incumbent to hard launch their re-election campaign with a first ad. But after a tight 2020 election that drew sharp criticism from Democrats both in New York and nationally, Hochul seems not to be taking any chances by beginning her messaging and strong campaign early, with Trump's new executive orders threatening to pull federal funding from states with cashless bail. The issue surely becomes a flashpoint once again in New York. Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado, who is challenging Hochul for the Democratic nomination, also took aim at Hochul over the ad, questioning her ability to meaningfully stand up to Trump. Kathy Hochul can posture all she wants in a TV ad, but New Yorkers know the truth. Under her watch, Trump and his allies have already run rampant in our state. Delgado spokesman Steve Ilka said in a statement, "Does anyone really feel secure with Kathy Hochul at the helm, with the most vulnerable among us already paying the price?" Let's hold off on the mayor's race. I'm going to go to a commercial right now, and when I come back from the commercial, I'll go to the mayor's race. So let's go to a commercial right now. We're at a midpoint, Mr. Producer. Thank you.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Do you know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely miss you.
Okay, as I said, welcome back. It appears that Andrew Cuomo, like his father Mario, lost the Democratic primary for New York City mayor. Andrew, like his father, was urged to quit the race. Andrew, like his father, is moved planning ahead and defying polls, running for the general election. And it looks like Andrew, like his father, will lose the mayor's race. Now, the race for New York City mayor is heading into Labor Day with more endorsements and accusations and more campaign events. There was a huge turnout on Sunday as Democratic candidate Zohan Madami hosted a scavenger hunt that attracted hundreds of supporters. Well, let me correct that. There was word that it attracted 2,000 supporters, but they only had 500 cards to give out to the people. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams and former Governor Andrew Cuomo sharpened their attacks on the frontrunner. Why not 4 more years? We don't need an experiment. We need experience, said Adams, with an endorsement from the New York City African Council. Adams looks to drum up support in Harlem. He did not specifically address the gun violence in the city this weekend, but mentioned his experience patrolling the streets and subways. And I'll get into the gun violence in a moment when I get to when he appeared in Hampton Park yesterday. It was a swipe. Something needs to be said about the life experience and being mature enough that right now you should not be doing scavenger hunts. You should be going through the city, helping people deal with the issues they face. We don't have time for games, Adams said. It was a swipe at the scavenger hunt by Mandami that brought supporters to Union Square, where they were given clues relevant to places in the city history. The last stop of the scavenger hunt was in Astoria, where a coffee shop provided refreshments. The guy who arrived first got a gift from Mandami that doubled as a dig at Adams. It was similar to the infamous cash-filled bag of chips that a former Adams advisor gifted to a reporter, but bigger. And I unfortunately couldn't find a bag of her sour cream chips. Otherwise, I would have showed it to you. The person, Dove Williams, said, I haven't checked for any red envelopes yet, but the bag is sealed, so I think it's a good sign. He is dangerous, frankly, for New York City, said Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo, meanwhile, on Fox News Sunday, blasted Mandami, who he says have beaten him in the Democratic primary, but the general election is different. It's more Democrats, more moderate Democrats, more of what's called outer borough, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. So it's a much more different electorate, and New York City people are not socialists. They're not anti-business. They're not anti-corporate people. They want jobs. They want growth, Cuomo said. Meanwhile, at a weekend deadly shooting scene in the Bronx, Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa told, in the South Bronx, that is, Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa told Eyewitness News that New Yorkers more than anything want safety. Violent crime is out of control in the city, so I don't know what the mayor and police commissioner are talking about, because you can get a sense from the people they're scared, said Sliwa. Now, Adams came to Hampton Park here. Mayor Adams announced Thursday that he will deploy 1,000 police officers to patrol the Bronx this weekend after a surge of shootings, and plans to invite gang members to Gracie Mansion in a bid to settle their beef. Now, I have on my blog at 100%.blogspot.com, and I gave to the Bronx Post and Co-op City News a story on this. So let me continue. We have 1,000 more officers that are going to be deployed in the Bronx to assist with Chief Benjamin Gurley and assisting other personnel. Adams said he addressed the community members at Hampton Park, where a deadly shootout erupted Saturday night. We've actually looked all over the city. We've gotten officers from behind the desk to be out this weekend, and we want to make sure that we have the right deployment to deal with this violence. The move comes nearly a week after gang-related gun battle near the Bronx Park killed a 32-year-old man, injured 3 others, and left a teenager fighting for her life after she was blasted in the face by a stray bullet. She's at Jacoby Hospital. 2 teens aged 16 and 17 were hit with multiple charges, including murder, attempted murder, gang assault, weapons possession for the firefight, which broke out during a basketball tournament. Devon Reyes, 20, and Robert Royal, 25, also faced murder, attempted murder, and weapons charge, with Reyes slapped with an additional gang assault charge, police said. The mayor said the swarm of cops will patrol the borough's violent hotspots. His plan also calls for peace talks with gang members and professional medias at the mayor's mansion in the days ahead, and those who don't show will deal with the consequences. Now, according to it's the notorious 47th precinct has seen a 50% surge in shootings so far, according to NYPD statistics, just as Adam trumpeted a dramatic dip in gunplay across the 5 boroughs. There have been 23 shootings in the precinct, which encompasses area including Baychester, Williamsbridge, and Woodlawn through August 23rd, the data shows. And here is the police report. This is the CompStat report showing that there were 23 shootings this year as of August 24th compared to 15 last year, an increase of 53%. And if you look at the last 28 days, there were 10 shootings compared to 4 in the last 28 days, a 150% increase. So these figures don't lie. Crime is up here in the Bronx. And this reporter asked Mayor Adams about the 3,123 crimes last year here in 2024 in the 47th precinct. And whereas the entire borough of Staten Island has the same amount of crime as the 47th precinct, but has 4 precincts. When quoting from the CompStat report, showing it also showed a 12.03 increase in overall crime compared to the previous year, I asked Mayor Adams, when will the Bronx be getting at least another precinct, if not 2 more precincts? Because the 40th, 43rd, and 44th precincts also had over 3,000 crimes reported in 2024. Mayor Adams said that the logistics of such a project, he said, yeah, and there's a whole process, as you know, on how precincts are decided based on geographics. And there's a plan in the future on how we're going to reshape the Bronx and what we need to do here. There is a plan. We are now looking at it. And yeah, that plan will probably go into operation after Mayor Adams is gone. The explosion of gun violence in the Bronx continued Wednesday as 3 men were shot, 1 fatally inside an apartment building. A 37-year-old man was shot in the chest, 62-year-old man shot in the arm, and a 59-year-old man was blasted in the buttocks when shots erupted during a domestic clash inside a building on College Avenue near East 187th Street in Mount Eden. The 37 and 62-year-old victims were taken by EMS to a local hospital where the younger man succumbed to his injuries, and the old man was listed in stable condition, authorities said. The 59-year-old victim was also listed in stable condition. The suspect, a 44-year-old man, then barricaded himself inside the apartment where he called News 12 and said that he shot 2 people, according to the network. The gunman was taken into custody with charges pending. The day before, 4 people were shot, including 2 men who were killed, and an Amazon driver wounded by a stray bullet in a rash of broad daylight violence in the Bronx, police said. Mayor Eric Adams addressed the rash of violence, and in another morning press conference in West Farms Square, East Tremont Avenue's train station, Republican mayoral candidate Curtis Lewa said that despite an overall drop in crime in the Bronx this year, the Bronx is bleeding out, and starting to get back to the bad old days. I said to the mayor, this is not a perception of crime like he always likes to say, and the police commissioner, Jessica Tisch, Lewa said, this is not an anomaly. They're always like this. They always like to cite crime stats. Crime is down, crime is down, crime is down. It's exploding, Lewa said, violent crime. If you're not going to bring in the National Guard, you're not going to bring in state troopers, you're not going to bring in more police aid, and the Bronx is where the blood is flowing, and the gangs are going to continue their retaliation. I'm not going to read about more crime, more shootings, so we're going to get into the speaker's race, where it appears that Julie Menon, who represents the Upper East Side, and Crystal Hudson, who represents part of Fort Greene in Brooklyn, have emerged as 2 leading contenders to be the next city council speaker, as Adrian Adams leaves come January due to term limits. Someone like Julie Menon running for speaker could be considered a moderate force, one source said. They said that while Menon is a very progressive person in terms of social issues, she has a lot of endorsements with Mandami, like the Heavyweight Hotels Trades Council. She would be seen as the adult in the room in terms of fiscal policy. They aren't exactly pushing her, but it's understood that she is the pick of the business community and could moderate the Mandami agenda should he be elected. Mandami is the front runner in the November election. We don't need to hear any more about that. Let's move on to the number of detainees in Rikers Island missing their medical appointments has skyrocketed this summer, with a single facility within the troubled jail complex driving the spike. The Department of Corrections saw 12,623 appointments were missed in April, an increase of nearly 4,000 missed appointments in May. The issue continued in June, where over 17,260 scheduled medical appointments were missed by detainees, according to city data. When the Department of Corrections saw a decline in the number of missed appointments from June to July, they remained over 2,440 more missed appointments in July than in April, or about 15,000 in all. The consequences could be deadly. 5 of the last 6 people to die in the Department of Correction custody suffered medical emergency before their deaths, according to the agency. And City Controller Brad Lander is no longer putting up his Department of Corrections dashboard. So Controller Lander, when are you going to put your dashboard back up? Now, in a story I said to you last week about a huge unofficial trash dump in the Bronx headquarters of the New York City Parks Department in the 15th Council District, it underwent an intense cleanup by Park Department and sanitation workers, and 15 tons of trash was hauled away from that area in the Bronx Parks Department dump by the weekend. The massive amount of waste had become a feast for rats as the city began dumping trash from parks all around the Bronx at the sites. A 30-yard dumpster was hauled to the facility, and state officials and pest control measures were put in place. Most trash dump in New York need to be registered, but state officials said the Parks Department dump is exempt since it's under New York City jurisdiction. Still, state officials said they'll be monitoring operations at the site to determine if a permit might be required in the future. Due to the enormous amount of garbage removed by Parks maintenance and operations staff, the quantity of garbage can appear significant before it is removed, said agency spokesman Greg McQueen. He added the site is a temporary holding area for illegally dumped trash collected from nearby parks and is cleared daily, which neighbors say is not the case. Winnie Greco a former aide to Mayor Adams, slipped into an open bag of Hurrah's potato chips and handed a reporter for the city, which came to $300, 10 20s, and a single $100 bill. According to investigators, the apparent attempt to bribe took place last week after an Adams event in Harlem. At the time, a campaign volunteer spoke to the senior reporter, Katie Hogan, inside the Whole Foods market across from the campaign's newly elected office. Honan told Greco she didn't want to accept the bag of chips, but Greco insisted. When Honan later opened the bag and saw cash tucked into the red envelope inside, she brought it to her editors, who, without counting it or touching the money, reported the transaction to the city Department of Investigation. Now, I'm going to close here with a thing about Parkchester, because the city health department began an evaluation of the Parkchester North condominiums after it said 2 residents tested positive for Legionnaire's disease within the last 10 months. The Legionella bacteria are growing in the building's hot water system and were identified after officials investigated the building's engineering systems, the health department said in a statement. It said it is working with the building and for extensive remediation, which can go on for months or years. In the meantime, the health department said it has provided recommendations to residents about how to safely use the water supply while reducing their risk of contracting Legionnaire's disease. Across the Harlem River, at least 6 people have died and more than 100 have been sickened recently in a Legionnaire's cluster that has plagued the area in the summer. A lawsuit filed last week alleges that a pair of construction companies cut corners and caused a completely preventable outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in Harlem. Legionnaire's is a type of pneumonia caused by the bacterium Legionella, which grows in warm water. Symptoms which typically appear 2 to 10 days after exposure to the bacteria can include a headache, muscle aches, shortness of breath, cough, and fever. It is not transmitted from person to person. It is treatable with antibodies, the health department officials say. And one more final thing. The first driverless robo-taxis hit the streets of the Big Apple in the test programs, but humans are still in the driver's seat, though some New Yorkers said futuristic tech is a disaster waiting to happen. Waymo officials are asserting how its vehicles will handle city obstacles like jaywalkers, taxis, cyclists. You heard that, Kevin? Cyclists and carriage horses, as up to 8 robo-taxis make their way around Brooklyn and Manhattan. Let's bring them to the Bronx. They'll never make it through the Bronx. Instead of hitting people, they'll probably get stolen here in the Bronx. The company-owned parent, Google parent Alphabet, was granted approval Friday by the City Department of Transportation to deploy the vehicles in a test run. They've already been spotted in Manhattan, bustling Soho neighborhood over the weekend. The pilot project, which won't take any passengers, is set to end in September, but some critics have already made up their minds. If there's one place on earth that was not meant for self-driving cars, it's New York City. This is a really bad idea. Former Mayor Bill de Blasio wrote Friday on X, last Friday. The self-driving car service began collecting data by human drivers in Waymo vehicles in Manhattan and Brooklyn in July. The company first drove through Gotham in 2021, though that trip focused on weather data. The all-electric vehicles are approved to travel south of 112th Street in Manhattan and in Brooklyn, north of Atlantic Avenue and west of Clinton Street through the likes of Brooklyn Heights, downtown Brooklyn, and Dumbo. Waymo already operates in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin, and Atlanta, and is planning to launch its autonomous driverless cars in Miami later this year and in Washington, D.C. in 2026. The service has completed over 10 million rides and touts a strong safety record, a company rep said. So let me end it there. I don't know how you feel about driverless cars. I know I might like sitting in the back seat, just enjoying myself. However, some people like to talk to the driver. They like to have a conversation. So let me end this conversation right here and say thank you for watching, and have a happy Labor Day, safe and good Labor Day. and I'll see you next week here on Talking Politics. Thank you.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.